News when you want it with Bloomberg News Now. I'm Nathan Hager.
And I'm Karen Moscow.
Karen, we begin with a political crisis in France. The country's prime minister has resigned. Let's get the very latest live with Bloomberg's Stephen Carroll. Stephen, good morning.
Good morning, Nathan and Karen. After less than a month, France needs another new prime minister. Sébastien Lecornu, a close ally of French President Emmanuel Macron, resigned just hours after his cabinet was announced. He said that he had made some progress with other parties on negotiating a budget, but not enough to reach a compromise on tax and spending plans that would be able to pass in the fractured parliament.
So what happens now, Stephen?
It's up to President Macron to make a decision. He faces the same series of choices he did a month ago. Pick a new prime minister, call fresh elections to the National Assembly, or even resign himself. But in any case, France needs a budget, and quickly. French stocks and bonds have sold off sharply on this news, with the spread of government borrowing costs over Germany reaching its widest since late last year. Continued political uncertainty won't do much to soothe investor jitters. In Brussels, Stephen Carroll, Bloomberg Radio.
All right, Stephen, thank you. We turn now to the latest developments to end the war in the Middle East. Israel and Hamas are preparing for indirect negotiations in Egypt as hopes are rising for a possible ceasefire in Gaza. We get more from Bloomberg's Dan Williams in Jerusalem.
Well, we have delegations converging on Egypt, the Red Sea resort of Sharm el-Sheikh. There will be more proximity talks. Hamas will never engage directly with Israel, so there'll be mediation by the Egyptians, by a Qatari technical team, which is also expected in. Qatar, you remember, along with Egypt, those were the two Arab powers that have mediated previous ceasefires. But now what's being discussed is a peace plan put forward by President Trump last week. Peace meaning that this will not just be a self-interested, time-bound cessation or suspension of hostilities, but an end to the war and, according to the plan, an end to Hamas institutionally in the Gaza Strip.
And Bloomberg's Dan Williams in Jerusalem says a swap of Israeli hostages and Palestinian prisoners would happen immediately upon securing an agreement, while Hamas's disarmament would come in a second stage.
Now, Karen, to the latest on the government shutdown. It is now headed into its sixth day. The White House is signaling the first rounds of federal layoffs could begin as soon as today. Government worker unions have filed an emergency request with a federal judge in San Francisco to try to keep that from happening. President Trump was asked about his job cut plans on his way back from a Navy celebration in Virginia.
Taking place right now, and it's all because of the Democrats. The Democrats are causing the loss of a lot of jobs with their, it's a shutdown. It's their shutdown, not our shutdown. It's their shutdown.
Well, despite President Trump's comments, it's not immediately clear if layoffs have taken place yet. The Senate is set to vote again today on a stopgap spending bill that has failed 4 times before. Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer says House Speaker Mike Johnson's refused to negotiate with Democrats on extending health care subsidies.
We've tried 45 days and 45 days and 45 days from March on. We asked them to vote on it 3 times. The Republicans in the Senate, they voted no 3 times.
Speaker Johnson says there's time to negotiate once the shutdown's over.
The funding runs out December 31st. The month of October is a critical time for us to get to this, but we can't when Chuck Schumer keeps voting to shut the government down for political reasons.
Speaker Johnson and Leader Schumer both appeared on CBS's Face the Nation, heard Sundays on Bloomberg Radio.
Nathan, a federal judge has temporarily blocked the Trump administration from deploying any National Guard troops to Oregon during protests against an immigration crackdown. U.S. District Judge Karen Immergut, a Trump appointee, issued a temporary order late Sunday that will last at least 14 days. It halts the administration's plan to deploy hundreds of troops from California and Texas to Portland. Here in the U.S., Nathan, futures, they are higher as we begin a new trading week. The S&P 500 sits at an all-time high, coming off 6 straight days of gains, and Amy Wu Silverman is head of derivatives strategy for RBC.
Here we are with markets at all-time highs. Skew is relatively low. You know, all the hedges that had been placed were not monetized because the markets kept going up. And when I talk to investors, they say this just feels like the most reluctant rally.
RBC's Amy Wu Silverman, the S&P 500 is up more than 14%. And that's news when you want it with Bloomberg News Now. I'm Karen Moscow.
I'm Nathan Hager, and this is Bloomberg.